Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another segment of Romance Month. And we are once again going to go over some anime couples. I really hope you've had a chance to watch some of my previous romances about anime couples as well. But in this case, I'm going to go for a more specific anime title. And since Fruits Basket, the 2019 version, is done, we can now talk about the pairings. That's right, we're going to talk about the most beloved anime and manga series of all time. It focuses on a young girl named Toru Honda who tries to build her life after losing her mother in a car accident and forced to live in the tent. One day she comes across the mysterious Somas, and her life has been changed for the better, impacting their lives as well as hers. So for this list, I'm going to go over some of the top 5 best Fruits Basket couples. Basically, I'm going to go over the couples that just stand out as a whole, whether it's through their situation, how their chemistry works, as well as the fact of how far they have come in their relationship. I'm going to unfortunately exclude Kikyo as well as the husband. This is going to be a very interesting pair to talk about. I put them further up on the list because they didn't have a whole lot of screen time, but their interactions are just very interesting, especially considering the zodiac animals they take the form of. The girl with the orange hair is Kisa Soma. Basically, she takes on the zodiac form of the tiger, and she was only able to show it under forms of distress when she's gone through a lot of emotional and physical pain. You see, the thing is, she has a lot of enduring struggles and likes to keep it all in. Despite the fact that she's a tiger, she's also just a very sweet, mild-mannered girl. The problem is, she's very different from everyone from her class, so everyone at her school just picks on her because of her eyes and her hair. Kids can be cruel, unfortunately, as well as a result, forming a sense of child mutism, which means she can't speak. Technically means that the trauma has been so much is that she just can't talk on her own, feeling like she has to suppress all of her feelings. It didn't exactly help when, of course, Akito stepped in and practically pummeled her for only one reason alone, having a relationship with Hiro, I believe. In the beginning of the series, Hiro came off as a bit of a jerk, mostly because he always treated Toru like some sort of servant and also was nothing more than taking his frustrations about his situation out on our beloved heroine. And ironically, he's the sheep. While Kisa's the tiger, Hiro's the sheep. And even though he's frustrated with how the situation is, he tries to be there for Kisa whatever way possible, while Kisa is sort of like that special little sedative, something that can calm Hiro's bad attitude, as well as slowly help him become a little bit more attached to Toru. Not in the same sense as the other Yuki Soma men, but in a way where he doesn't really become too much of a jerk and becomes a little bit more respectful for Toru later in the series. Pain. That's practically the one word people would say when describing Hattori Soma. Here's the reason why I say that, dear Fruits Basket fans. If many of you had paid attention to his backstory, you definitely would feel bad for him. In the beginning, he had fallen in love with Kana Soma, sort of like a cousin, if you will. And at the time, she soon learns of his secret and the zodiac sign he was born under. She wasn't totally fazed at all and actually liked for who he is and wanted nothing more than to marry him, and Hattori felt the same way. Unfortunately, Akito definitely had to screw things up again, as she usually does, and threw a huge fit over the whole thing about getting the marriage over with, resulting in Hattori's getting slightly blind in one eye, as well as being forced to erase Kana's memories so she wouldn't have to deal with the heartache any longer than she should have. And then, of course, you have Mayu, who is a family friend, or basically a friend of Kana Soma. At first, she knew about Kana's relationship with Hattori and wanted to be a bit respectful about that, considering of how much of an honorable and decent human being she is. She tries to be supportive of her friend's decisions, but she couldn't exactly ignore her feelings of Hattori, especially over time. Finally, when the two meet, she gets really angry and upset because of his indifference and his incapable feelings. Or what I mean by that is, he doesn't express his emotions as much, and she practically cries on his behalf, which is a very bold move on her part. Maybe not intentional, but she definitely brings out what we're all feeling at this point. We want Hattori to cry. We don't want him to suppress his feelings any more than he should have, and thus resulting in this very interesting dynamic between the two. And the reason why they make such a good couple is that they're both hardworking and respectful people. They try to help out with the dignity of the respective people they're looking after. In Hattori's case, he's trying to protect Toru from Akito whatever possible, as well as Mayu trying to help out the students, as well as when Yuki's mother came into the picture, Mayu did everything she can to actually come to Yuki's defense and actually try to get Yuki's mom to act straight up adult for once. But what makes this couple so great is how they just complement each other. Mayu is finally able to open up her feelings as well as finally expressing herself, while with Hattori, Mayu's able to actually help him move on with his life and maybe even move forward to a new sense of love and being able to open his feelings in a way that he never could. I put them further on the list because they just didn't have a whole lot of screen time either. Oh, the history of the two are basically pain-laced with arsenic. How they got started is definitely painful, especially on Rin's side of it. These two had their ups and their downs in more ways than one, and they just complement each other so well. So you have Hatsuharu, who's usually calm and collected most of the time, but if you so as much piss him off, he will go flying into a rage, enhancing Black Haru and making you regret making fun of him. And of course, since he was under the cow, he has been teased a couple of times because of, if you're familiar with of how the rat tricked the ox or cow and to helping the rat with the race, you can understand of where the frustration for Hatsuharu kind of comes into play. He's just fed up of being compared to a creature who was easily outridden by a rat, and he's his own person. And then, of course, you have Rin Soma, who suffers so many chronicle issues. In the beginning of the series, she comes off as very hostile and aloof to Toru Honda and wants nothing more than to keep her distance from anyone, driving herself crazy to figure out how to reverse the Soma family curse. And if you recall her family backstory, she was through a very abusive childhood. It was just only one little question. one little question, everything just fell apart. Her parents treated her like she was some sort of animal that has to be beaten and discarded, up to the point where she is constantly put into the hospital in chronic need of attention. Oh my god, it's no wonder she's so sickly and always transforming a horse whenever possible. It's by then that we really feel bad for Soma, even when she finally hallucinates and starts screaming bloody murder at thinking that her mom's in the room with her, trying to hurt her again. And of course, she's driving herself crazy of removing the curse, so that way Hatsuharu would no longer feel the burden of that curse, as well as finally having the chance to break ties with Akito. Overall, these two just want to look out for each other. Even Hatsuharu goes out of his way to protect her from her own parents, practically calling out the BS that they dumped on her for a good amount of years, and of course tries to help her cope with whatever feelings that she has been burdened with for some time. While with Rin, she seems to bring out more of Hatsuharu's hotter side, or at least more emotional side that makes him very mature, and of course makes these dynamics awesome. Of course, this list wouldn't be complete without Yuki Soma and his partner in this one. After all, he is one of the few protagonists in this series, along with Toru Honda. Anyway, he comes off as this wonderful Prince Charming image at school, as well as in life. But outside of it, he has his own struggles. He's a very sickly kid, suffers a lot of asthma, as well as the fact that he's hated upon by Kyo and previously hated on by Hatsuharu. Let alone that, he also has to deal with, once again, the mental and abusive torture that Akito had placed upon him. Probably worse than anyone else's because he's born in the year of a rat. To make matters worse, his mom, who seems to care more about status and money more than the well-being of her own sons, definitely does not help at all, feeding fuel to the fire of insecurities, as well as sometimes looking down on him when she doesn't even give a lick about what happens. Even goes as far as making decisions for him, which technically is not her place at that point in life. And then you have Machi, this quiet, withdrawn girl who has very severe issues with perfection. But the thing is, she is caught in a stupid money struggle. You see, she's a half-sister to one other student, and of course, has been dealing with expectations because her father is loaded. So her mom, who's practically rivals with the half-brother's mom, it definitely makes the situation absolutely upsetting for her, driving herself crazy up to the point where she'll throw some temper tantrums if something goes wrong. And this is very destructive and unhealthy behavior, and feels like she has to be closed off from everyone, especially when rumors about supposedly killing her brother is floating around. And that makes me furious. I mean, did you get a load of the mom in season 3? She was just a horrible person to Machi. I mean, accusing her of trying to kill her own brother without a speck of proof, as well as going as far as accusing her of being dull when she's the one who practically drove her to insanity. Oh my god, there are so many words I want to scream at that woman, and I'm pretty sure many people will want to beat down that door. Anyway, because of these unrealistic expectations and the pressure she's facing, she's unable to express them in a healthy way or give herself a high opinion in terms of thoughts and feelings. So when Yuki comes in and meets her, the two of them have an unexpected connection that no one would ever thought possible. Both he and Machi have a similar struggle. They know what it's like to deal with expectations. They know what it's like to try to deal with perfection and being something else entirely. Machi sees Yuki in a different light compared to the rest of student body, like Toru Honda. Machi views Yuki as lonely, which we as an audience can definitely see from him. He's a lonely individual who doesn't know how to express himself without feeling like the expectations of a Soma family stabbing at him constantly. While with Machi, Yuki definitely helps her feel more comfortable, giving her a sense of identity, and this is where this couple's just so interesting in chemistry and everything in between. Well, this didn't come to a surprise to y'all, and who could blame me for trying to put it number 1 on this list? Kyo has been through a lot of struggle. He's been verbally and physically abused by the Soma families. His dad wants nothing to do with him and practically blames him for every simple thing, even though that leech is practically the source of all of Kyo's misery, as well as Kyo having to deal with his mother's suicide. He is practically alone in the world, dealing with the fact that he turned into a zodiac cat. Things didn't exactly help out when Toru finally came onto the scene and resulted in the very awkward occurrence. And plus, his first meeting with her definitely didn't exactly have very positive vibes. He would always lash out with her with a crazy vengeance, wanting nothing more than to push her away whenever possible. Oh yeah, and to top it all off, he also goes as far as taking on Arisa Soma whenever possible, but he's not without his softer side. He really does care about Toru and does everything in his power to keep her safe, both emotionally as well as physically, even going as far as making sure of a solid glance at some boys would back off immediately. He cares a lot in more ways than one. And then you have Toru Honda, a kind, loving soul who wants to help everyone any way she can, even if she isn't supposed to be obligated to it, and works her way down to the bone. You can't help but want to cheer her on. She's so optimistic and tries to see the value in everyone, including Kyo. She even goes as far as trying to help him with his relationships with Kagura, as well as the relationship with Yuki little by little. Even though her determination drives everyone to concern, and in Kyo's case, crazy, it still was well appreciated, and even Toru finally develops a sense of stubbornness when it came to Kyo's life. The best moment ever with this couple was when she went to face off with the cat Zodiac's cursed form and holds on for dear life, refusing to let go. Despite her harassment at school, as well as the harassment from her horrible family with the exception of her grandfather, Toru is just that kind-hearted person that people in this world just don't deserve. And also, she's been through such a horrible loss. She lost her mom and dad at very young age, her mom being the most recent death and one that she struggled with. And of course, both she and Kyo had a past with her before. With Toru, she always looked up to her mom in ways of trying to get things done, as well as making sure that they get through each other's day. While with Kyo, he finally comes to meeting Toru, at first indirectly, then directly, struggling with the fact that he blames himself indirectly for Toru's mother's death, which we all know wasn't exactly his fault. I mean, true, he shouldn't have been so secretive with the curse with that poor woman, but at the same time, this was just a situation he could not control. So, in both ways, these two definitely help move on from the horrific trauma of the past and then become the greatest couple of all time. So folks, these are just my thoughts and I want to hear yours. What was your favorite couple in Fruits Basket? And what else would you have wanted to see? Remember to do a subscribe, do a like. This is Dragon Videos, signing off.